Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Devi Dojo. I'm Dustin. He's Chris. They call me the Sensei. They call him the Shifu. Chris, how you doing today, my friend?
It's a great day. We had a very successful week in the last episode one. So we appreciate all the support. I'm very excited about how that went, and it's made me even more driven to make this one even better for y'all. So I started by upgrading my mic situation because that wasn't as good as possible last time. So you can see this is hiding under the bottom of my camera there. And I also upgraded the background a little bit with a little dojo themed tapestry from good old Amazon. So we're in the zone now, man. We are in the dojo.
We are in the dojo, man. Just speaking of last week, let's kind of overview a little bit of what we talked about. And we unveiled the first scroll of the Sensei, right? We laid out a Devi truth that wide receivers are the heartbeat of your Devi roster. And along with that, we introduced our new one-of-a-kind colored belt tier system, which is truly the foundation for how we're going to be ranking the future stars of college football and the future stars of your dynasty lineups. But tonight, Chris, we turn our focus to the running backs, the flickering flame of the fantasy world. Now, these are the players who can burn hot and fast, but can just as quickly burn out. Because, I mean, we've talked about this a lot, and we're going to talk about it tonight. This is a position that demands that careful handling, right? The timing is everything. And we're going to show you exactly how we see the running back landscape shaping up as of right now, as of June 27th, 2025, the night that we're recording this. And of course, these rankings are fluid. The belt colors may change as the season unfolds, but this is where the dojo stands as of today.
Absolutely. And all of our listeners are familiar for the most part with the dynasty scenario and the NFL as a whole. And gone are the days where you can just stack your roster with, the Arian Fosters, the CJ2Ks, the Adrian Petersons. It's a very slippery landscape for a lot of those running backs out there. So you know that the nature of the running back position is one of exactly that, the flickering flame that can burn hot and burn out slow or quickly.
With that said, we're going to move on, everybody, to the second scroll that's already going to be unlocked. So with that said, let's enter the dojo. Beware the path of the flame. The running back burns brightest when young, fierce, and untamed. But no flame burns forever. Even the hottest fire fades to embers. Ooh, man, that's some good stuff, Chris. So when you think
dojo talk.
That's some great dojo talk. That's some great ancient wisdom passed down from senseis of old. But Chris, when you think of these Devi running backs and even the dynasty backs once they hit your roster, how do you approach the position knowing that window of value can really close faster than any other position out there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those scenarios where even as I was putting together our belt rankings today, I ended up with about 14 or 15 in my top 10 tiers here. So it's one of those scenarios where you just want to grab people that you believe in, but not necessarily load up on all of one player. Whereas last week we advocated for building around wide receivers, and a lot of those same names were at the top for a lot of people. Those are the guys that are going to be a little bit more consistent and more guaranteed to make it to the NFL and help you out on your dynasty roster. Whereas I think the strategy for me as I play Devi and for you probably as well is to just kind of take shots on guys that you feel good about. If there's some value maybe in a Devi startup or in a Devi draft, you see a name you like, you've done some scouting, you don't have any shares of him yet, take him and see what happens. But definitely temper your expectations, because from year to year, there's a lot of fluidity with, where they're going to end up ranked and if they even make it to the NFL. And as we know, the NFL doesn't like to use first round capital on a lot of these guys. So we've seen players this year that we thought were going to be a lot higher end up in the fifth, sixth round, undrafted. And that's something you have to be wary of when you're drafting guys to your Devi roster.
Absolutely. The thing about the running back position is that that initial portion of time where they're producing, the value on them spikes immediately. And so you really have to understand the market and how to play it, and things like that. And remember, to the listener, everything that's happening in Devi, everything that's happening in Dynasty is all a reflection of what's happening in the actual NFL. So if the actual NFL is telling you how they value these guys, although not necessarily always spending that first round draft capital, moving on from them after that rookie contract, then that kind of should point to you how you should be playing or how you should be managing them on your Devi and Dynasty rosters. A lot of times with Devi, I like to take some of the big name flashy guys, especially young ones. And if I can flip them for an NFL asset, I will do that every time. But whether in Dynasty, I'm always looking to flip those running backs. And then, the consensus old wisdom is you don't really need a top end running back until you're competing. I don't necessarily always agree with that. I think that even as a rebuilder, you can definitely stack some running back talent, but it's just about understanding the times and the seasons of when you need to move on. For example, like you can hold on to a running back for far too long, right? Because that age cliff, we know versus any other position, it's going to hit them hard and it's going to come quicker than you anticipate. So a lot of times I like to take these guys and I'm always okay flipping them a year sooner than a year late.
Yeah, that's perfectly true. And there's not too many guys in the James Conner, Aaron Jones tier where you can still get them very cheap when they're producing at a age 29, age 30 season. So if you're looking to compete, you can always get those guys a little bit cheaper. So that's why we don't prioritize these guys who are freshmen, sophomores in college necessarily as much. But it's still fun to talk about them and to scout them and to think about what could be, because in the end, you're going to want a little bit of diversity on your Devi roster. And these are the spice, I guess, that's going to spark up your roster a little bit more as you're checking everything out and watching football this year.
I love it, man. Well, now that we've set that stage, let's get to the belts, Chris. I think it's time for us to rank these backs, and we're going to go one tier at a time. We'll start at the bottom.
Absolutely. Here is how we have our tiers laid out. A little bit different here. Shout out to Devin, our guy making graphics. He's revamped us a little bit. We're hanging more like banners and tapestries now than we were across the board there last time. Did you want to read about these individually?
Yeah, I'll go over it. And just again, this should show you the detail that we're putting into this show and our tier rankings. This is the criteria that a prospect has to meet in order to just fit in these tiers. So go ahead, if you're watching this, pause your screen if you want to read the whole thing. I'm going to just quickly summarize. I'm not going to read the whole thing, Chris, but starting there at the black belt, this is the rare running back who checks every box: size, burst, vision, contact balance, receiving ability, and high level production. It's a projected 3-down NFL running back with verified traits, workload, and day 1 or 2 draft expectations. Then you move on to the purple belt, and these are running backs with feature size, strong traits, and proven flashes of production. They're highly valued Devi assets with NFL starter or committee upside, and they're one big season or full workload away from elite status. So that's the big caveat for me right there. Just that one season away. Moving on to the blue belt. These are, of course, the talented running backs who they could show flashes of burst, vision, pass catching, but they lacked full consistency, workload, or even production at this tier. They're still blocked by perhaps a depth chart, usage, or role, yet they're close to breaking out. Second to last there, we got the yellow belt. This is for the promising running backs with athletic upside or strong recruiting pedigree, but limited production, unclear roles, or returning from injury. The breakout window is near, but proof is still pending. And finally, there at the bottom, we have our last one, the white belt. This is for true freshmen, red shirts, or stashed backs with intriguing tools, but no meaningful snaps yet. They're all projection, right? These are the ones that require patience as they develop to climb those depth charts or truly return to health.
Yeah, love that. Love the way we're approaching the belts, and we're doing a little bit differently this week. Last week, everybody kind of knew Jeremiah Smith was going to be at the top. This time, we want to start at the bottom and keep you a little bit on the hook here as we advance to the guys closer to the top of our rankings. So without further ado, we will unveil our white belt tiers. So you have Justice Haynes as the sole member of your white belt. Why don't you speak on him a little bit and why you put him there?
Okay. Well, Justice Haynes, for anybody who's been playing Devi for last couple of years, knows about him. He was a high end recruit. He was second rated running back in his recruiting class, second to just CJ Baxter of Texas. He was a ridiculously productive running back in high school. I believe he had over 7,000 yards, and he actually has that NFL pedigree too, which is something that I value. He's the son of former Steelers running back Veron Haynes, excuse me. You go back to 2023, his freshman season, and at Alabama, and anybody that knows Nick Saban knows that he's not going to play those big time freshmen typically right away, right? They have to establish a role. They sit behind the veterans. They learn. That was the culture that Nick Saban had established at Alabama. And so Justice Haynes, he had some limited snaps as a freshman, but in 2024, he was projected to be the starter, right? And I believe in the first 6 games, he actually was technically listed as the starter. But I think it's important to note that by all accounts, the true starter became Jam Miller there in Alabama. When you compare Justice Haynes to his counterpart there, they really played the same role in the offense. So to me, it's a little bit of a red flag that the coaching staff just seemed to prefer Jam because, like I said, they had the same role, they win in a lot of the same ways, and so it really just came down to preference. So little bit of a red flag for me, but now there is hope. He entered the transfer portal. He actually was the number one ranked running back in the transfer portal. And we all know where he went, right, Chris? We know that he went to Michigan and he's still got 2 years of eligibility left. But a thing that I found interesting and what I really like about his projection there in Michigan is that he already has a relationship with the running back coach. The running back coach, Tony Alford, used to coach running backs at Ohio State. And he was one of the coaches that was really trying to recruit Justice. So now he already has that relationship with him there at Michigan. They have a much better offensive line in terms of run blocking, excuse me, according to PFF. So the situation is just, it seems like it's going to be conducive for good production for him. I really expect him to elevate his draft stock. And I think just with the way he runs, I'm not going to go too in depth on this, but I think he shows violent balance through contact. He's a decisive one cut runner. He plays low, things like that. Like it's just all setting up for the perfect situation for him. And I truly expect that at the end of the year, he could vault himself up to at least blue, potentially purple belt status for me.
Yeah, you hit a lot of my notes, and I really like this guy. I have him further up on my tiers. I love the fact that he's a legacy, right? His dad was a member of the Steelers teams in the 2000s. Fun guy to root for if you were a Steelers fan back then. You alluded to his high school career. He had over 7,000 yards and 95 touchdowns, which is remarkable. And in his brief appearances in Alabama, he only had 104 carries, but he had 5.9 yards per carry. So I'm very excited about him and seeing what he can do with his ability to share or carry the workload, I should say, at Michigan. He's just, when you watch him, and he's just like silky smooth. He changes direction kind of effortlessly. Really good burst in short areas. So he's a guy who I'm a little bit higher on, I think. And I'm looking forward to see what he can do this year. Moving over to me, I have Usman Kroma, and I'm not sure that I'm pronouncing that right, but he's got a really cool name. Kroma sounds good to me. He's a true freshman. So again, we advocate for not necessarily going after these guys, but I have a lot of shares of him because I like what I see out of him. He had some great film in high school. He's 6'1", he's 215 pounds. What I liked, a little tidbit I dug up, there was this guy on Twitter who was a big FSU guy who had watched a ton of his film and had the tidbit that he had in his sophomore year of high school. He was clocked at 22.6 miles per hour in a game, which was the second highest speed of any player in high school that year. I'm sure that as he's grown a little bit more and added some muscle, he's probably not quite that fast anymore. But when you're talking about a 6'1" guy who's running pretty quick, over 200 or 20 miles per hour, that's a guy that I just want to get my hands on, and you can usually get him pretty cheap in Devi right now. So I want to be a little bit ahead of the curve on him, and I'm excited. I think he might have an opportunity this year to maybe not take a red shirt and to get involved in that FSU backfield. He's just a guy fun to watch. He has a lot of highlights of hurdling in high school. There was a nice clip of him hurdling a player, and as soon as he hits the ground, he makes a juke and cuts out the next tackler and just breaks away for a nice long touchdown. There was another clip I watched of him with two tacklers coming up to kind of pinch him, and he slowed down and did a spin move real quick, and he lost his balance for a second, but he had the ability to keep up and run it into the end zone. So he's a fun guy to watch. I recommend going out there and finding some highlights of him on Twitter or wherever you want to find those, and take a look and see, what he's going to bring to the collegiate level for FSU. He wasn't around this spring. He's a new arrival. In fact, I think this week he had his first opportunity to talk to the media out at FSU. And he was saying the coaches are doing a great job of getting him up to speed very quickly, and he feels like he can be involved this season. So I'm pretty bullish on him moving forward. He's a guy I'm going to be keeping my eye on very closely. He's probably, along with Justice Haynes, actually, I think my most owned running backs in Devi right now. So looking forward to him, absolutely.
Yeah, I've noticed you in all of our drafts just snagging him up, and I'm like, all right, this must be one of his guys. And admittedly, like, he's one that I want to put as an honorable mention. He didn't quite make my tiered ranking, but he's shown enough for me to be interested. And you touched on it, like just the fact that he's probably going to get some burn this year, not have to redshirt. That, like, anytime that happens, like, you're going to vault up my rankings just a bit. So guys like him, maybe somebody else like a Gideon Davidson, those guys who are probably going to get some burn are really rising up for me. But moving on there, I'm going to move on to my yellow belt tier.
The yellow belt.
I got two guys. Yellow belt. I got two guys there. Chris, you got one. We share the one. So if you don't mind, I'm going to touch on.
Yeah, go for it. CJ Baxter is the guy that we share here out of Texas. So speak the good word about CJ.
All right. The good word about CJ, man, is, again, in that recruiting class, he was like the top running back in that class. And then for the University of Texas, they just had a stellar recruit that year. That's the same year they got Arch Manning in there. The great thing about CJ Baxter is he had an immediate role as a freshman, right? He went in there, and Jonathan Brooks would oftentimes spell him. He did miss some games though, and here's the theme and the kind of the red flag that pops up with him on his profile. First game of the season, he had a rib injury. Later on, he had a foot injury. He just had all these nagging little injuries that kept him out of the games. He still managed, though, in that freshman year to put up 659 yards, 5 touchdowns for a healthy 4.8 yards per carry. So after Jonathan Brooks entered the NFL draft, right, we had our guy CJ Baxter. He was expected to be the starter and have that big breakout season. Unfortunately, as we know, in practice before the season even started, my guy CJ Baxter tore his ACL and his PCL. So devastating injury. So that's going to be the obvious question is health going forward. He's already started to get that injury prone label, but the coaches, specifically Coach Sarkisian, have raved about his rehab, and he's actually been cleared to practice now, which is good to see. I know that Coach Sark has talked about easing him into the lineup, and he even cited Jonathan Brooks tearing his ACL there at Texas and then going on to Carolina, and then of course re-tearing it again. So he really cited that as an example of it was a tale of caution, really. He said, we're not going to do that with CJ. And the thing that CJ has going for him is he's young, right? That young bill of health is going to do him well, I think. So, but very interesting, 220 pounds. He actually has a confirmed laser timed 40. He ran a 4.5 40-yard dash in high school, laser timed. So that's confirmed. A lot of these guys, you get these high school times and you kind of have to take the information with a grain of salt. But this was confirmed. So I really love that. Shows that he has that speed, the burst, and his price has gone down tremendously since the injury. Back when he was a freshman, he was being taken high in the startups that I was in, and the supplemental drafts that I was in. He was always taken very high. And now you can get tremendous value for him because that injury history is already kind of baked into his price. So he's a guy that I'm getting everywhere that I can. And look, Chris, if he's fully healthy with that size speed combo, he could easily vault in that purple belt here, if not higher. And he could become potentially one of those first round running backs that we love so much in fantasy football, because he has the rare size speed combo with just enough pass catching chops, I think, to be an all around running back. What about you? I could talk about CJ Baxter.
No, yeah, I mean, I love the guy. You summed it up pretty nicely. He's definitely, the injuries are the thing that has kept him from being higher on everybody's rankings, not just ours. So that's the thing that he needs to overcome. But if he can prove it, man, he's going to be wheels up for sure. Those Texas guys, all the running backs coming out of there lately have been, absolutely bonkers. Although poor Jonathan Brooks hasn't been the modicum of health himself, but we'll see how he can break the mold there a little bit and hopefully be part of the Arch Manning regime there. Have Arch and the gang doing some good things for Texas and maybe making a deeper playoff run than they did last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love those players at Texas. I have a soft spot in my heart for Coach Sarkisian. As former offensive coordinator for USC, moved on to Bama. Like, I think he's one of the best, if not the best play caller in all of college football. Like, I just gush about him. I love that how much speed he truly recruits for that team, both at the wide receiver position and running back position. Like, dude just gets athletes and he knows how to use them. But moving on, and speaking of athletes, I'm looking there at Isaac Brown, and Chris, I wanted to put this guy higher. I wanted to put Isaac Brown high, man. Like,
as I said, when I was putting headshots on our tiers here, I had about 12 guys in, and he was one of the ones. He didn't end up making my final cut, but this isn't necessarily my top 10 running backs necessarily. It's just 10 that I felt like I could accurately rank right now, and I'm excited to talk about him with you.
Yeah, and I mean, dude, if I went off the criteria that we set, true, like only that, he should have been higher. I have my hesitations, which I'll touch on, but I want to talk about his film, because you want to talk about a good time. I popped on his film. I copped some of that all 22 from my guys at Couch Scouts. Go check them out. Got in their film room, got some Isaac Brown tape, and man, it was my favorite film to watch while prepping for this show. Just the way he runs is so silky smooth. To me, Chris, he's one of those guys who seems to like effortlessly glide at full speed. But I think what sets him apart is his burst. I might get some hate for this, but I think he can hit his top speed faster than anyone I can remember since CJ2K for the Titans. Now,
I love that.
I'm not saying,
anytime you're bringing up CJ2K, which is now twice that we've done it on this show.
Right. We love him. And I do want to clarify, I'm not saying that he is Chris Johnson level fast. I don't think he is, but I think that his acceleration, right, his ability to hit that top speed is on par with Chris Johnson. Like, I literally saw, dude, two steps, and this guy is at his peak. But like another freshman running back who I'll talk about later, he's able to cut laterally so smooth, so effortlessly, all while staying at that top speed. And there's just not very many people that can do that, to be able to cut laterally and maintain that speed. Your top end speed while cutting is just incredible. And not everybody can do it. Like, that's not something you can learn. That's just an athletic gift that you're born with. So if you're watching this, you're probably asking, if I'm so high on him, why is the most productive freshman from last season, the most productive running back freshman from last season, only a yellow belt? Simply, it's honestly just because of his size, listed at 5'9", 190 pounds. I have to admit that the hit rate on those type of backs, they don't have a good hit rate when it comes to making it in the NFL. So I'm always a little cautious, and I have to temper myself, because this is like my guy. Like, I was like this with Devon Achane too. But making it to the NFL, that's ultimately what matters, right? So I tend to be cautious, like I said, but I just think the kid's a dog. Like, he's a dog. He's straight up got that in him. And I think that he could be an outlier. And I haven't felt this strongly about someone at this size since Devon Achane. And look, I've gotten into arguments with people in Discords about this, about the size, right? They say he nothing more than an outlier. You can't bet on that. But I honestly can't write the full book on his evaluation now at just 18 years old, coming out of high school as a track guy, mind you. So for me, him running track at 190 pounds tells me all that I need to know about him. I'm confident that he can get at least up to 205 and get that man strength while maintaining that speed.
Yeah, if he adds a little bit more bulk, I mean, he may be a tad shorter than you want at the NFL level, but when you're talking about those smaller guys with a little bit more bulk to them, they have a role in a lot of NFL backfields. And he's a guy, because of his size, I think that he's not on as many radars. When you're looking up Devi rankings or whatever you're doing to try to figure out who you're going to take later in drafts, he doesn't always show up, but he's a guy who was extremely, extremely productive last year. And, it's the ACC, yada, yada, yada. Who cares? He's fun to watch, and he's absolutely fast and somebody to be excited for. If he keeps it up, he's going to have an opportunity at the NFL level. It's just how successful is he going to be once he gets there. But this is a guy,
Yeah,
like I was advocating for before. You can take a shot on Isaac Brown pretty cheap right now at Devi. And I think his stock's going to go up and up again if he can do it here in his sophomore season.
absolutely, man. And you touched on the size, the 5'9". For me personally, I like my running backs at that size because they often, especially when they're shifty, they can lose themselves behind that offensive line, and it makes it harder for the defense to often to find them. So I'm okay with that. And again, just I'm not comping him to Devon Achan, but my belief in his ability to put on weight as being a track athlete are very similar. Now, speaking of Achan, he was a guy that he had the lighter build entering the NFL, like we know, but even before the combine, he was able to put on 7 pounds of muscle. And Devon Achan has talked about that ad nauseum, actually. Like, hey, dude, I ran track my whole life. I can never get past a certain weight because I'm running track. You can't be heavy and running track. So now that he was able to dedicate his time, he started putting on a little bit more of that mass. I think Isaac Brown has the lower frame to put on that mass. And at 18 years old, entering college, and he's not running track in college. Like Devon Achan was running track and field all the way through his collegiate career at Texas A&M. That's not the case here with Isaac Brown. He's full on all football, and I
Get
think
into
give him
football,
some
and that's
time
what
of
we
this.
like. Yeah.
That's
Opportunity
yes,
is there
exactly.
for him.
Exactly. He's not soft when he runs either. Like I've seen him plenty of times lower his shoulder and initiate the contact plenty of times. There's even somewhere on tape. One of them I put in my scouting notes right here. He drove linebackers to the ground, putting his shoulder in. And just all you need to know about him, watch the Clemson film. It was actually the first time that Louisville beat Clemson in their program's history. So big game from him. He actually had the run that sealed it. He gave a little night celebration. Dude's a dog, man. I could
Yeah.
talk about him all
And he
night,
broke
but we got to
Lamar
move on.
Jackson's freshman rushing record at
Yep.
Louisville. Yeah, speaking of
Yeah.
Louisville running backs, right? That's what everybody was
Right.
saying about him coming out. He's a running back, and now he's a
Right.
two-time MVP, three-time MVP.
Yeah.
Dude's a stud.
Dog.
Absolutely. Moving on though to our blue belt tier, we got a couple different names here and a couple familiar names. As mentioned before, this is where I had Justice Haynes. I know we touched on him already, but I'm a little bit more bullish on him this year. I think he's going to have an opportunity to really prove some doubters at Michigan, but we don't need to recap, all of him. The guy we do share here is also in the Big Ten. That's Darius Taylor. We've talked about him, I believe, on the Devi Planet before with those boys. Shout out to them. Absolutely fun guy to watch, and I like him personally because he's a former wrestler. So, Penn State, big wrestling place. Love when the wrestlers get into a different sport like that and can dominate the way that he has.
Yeah, exactly. That's the reason I fell in love with him too, Chris. Is just the wrestling background, the base that he keeps, the contact balance that he displays. I think because of that wrestling background, it's really his superpower. I did struggle at times with watching his film. Once I got the All-22, I was a little lower. There's some Jacqueline Hyde stuff with him. He's really an upright runner. He does some weird movements, but there's no denying the talent. There's no denying the production. Even as a freshman, he appeared in those 6 games. He had 4 starts. It's super productive, and it was just a hamstring injury that kept him out. And then this last season, he started 11 of the 12 games, rushed 205 times for 986 yards and a team leading 10 touchdowns. And what I loved was in this last season, showed his ability as a pass catcher out of the backfield, catching 54 passes, 350 yards. He's another guy that could just do it all. And he led his team in all-purpose yards. So just very productive. He is the team. And I just think he's a physical downhill runner. He's got that contact balance, like I said. He's decisive north-south back. He wastes no time hitting the hole. That's what I love. I hate when these backs, they get the ball and they dance behind the line. He sees it, he hits it, and he's gone.
Yeah, I'm always a fan of the intangibles, as you know, and he just seems like one of those guys that everybody's always high on as a leader in the locker room. He's got that mentality. He's got that fight to him. He doesn't want to go down. Whenever somebody's trying to tackle him, he's got that wrestler mentality. He's like, you're not getting this football off me and you're not taking me to the ground. So I like that a lot about him. I will admit, though, that, yeah, the upright thing is a point that I wanted to bring up. It does seem like he needs to lower his center of mass a little bit more. And I think that's something that he can improve on as he gets a little bit more coaching. He's doing really well against, good opponents in the Big Ten. So looking forward to seeing what he can do. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not too critical of it. It was just something I noted, like watching it in the broadcast, I guess I didn't see that, but watching the all 22, you do see those things. I'm like, okay, that's something he needs to work on. And I almost wonder if it's because of his wrestling background, just the way he sets, like he's going for shoot. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but he's really talented, super young. I expect him to be a big riser for the 2026 draft class as well. He's
A
one of those
class
guys
that I really like. I think a lot of people don't like the 2026. I think the hype of especially the wide receivers of 2027 is kind of pushing everybody. I just saw recently that the picks are actually overvalued now. The 27 ones are over the value of 26 ones all across the board. But I think there's a lot of value to be had in 2026 with these running backs that are coming out. And he's going to be one of the top guys.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore on that. And even specifically the running back position in 2026 is being looked down at. For a while, you're just like, oh man, going forward, the running backs, like it's not looking good. And while I partially agree, I think that these guys they have they have a tremendous opportunity to raise their draft stock. And I see a lot of traits in these guys that I like. And Darius Taylor's one of these guys. He's not really a household name. People aren't talking about him very much, but he's one that I expect to really elevate his draft cap if he gets that production that we're expecting this year.
If you're a fan of football, just watch some highlights and you'll be a bigger fan of his than you thought you were. Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
We have differed a little bit here on our rankings, but two guys are on here. One for me, one for you, Makhi, Hughes, and Caden Durham, that we're each other's going to have a little bit higher. But Jonah Coleman's the one guy who, again, I alluded to all the people I was trying to squeeze on here and couldn't quite get on here. I love watching this guy run. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on Jonah Coleman.
Yeah, Jonah Coleman is a certified my guy. He's a guy that I've watched a lot of. I live close by Arizona-ish, so I get a lot of those games. And his time in Arizona, 25 games across his 2 seasons there, he put up over 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, and he followed his head coach Jed Fish to Washington when he moved there. So over 1,000 yards there, 10 touchdowns, all behind a shaky offensive line there at Washington. Like I don't think people realize just how bad his offensive line truly was, and to be that productive really just speaks volumes about him to me. And watching his tape for a big back listed at nearly 230 pounds, I was shocked. Chris, I'm telling you, I was shocked to see just how shifty he actually is. You don't see that in a lot of backs that are pushing 230. Quick note on this: Jonah Coleman, he recently put out a tweet that said that he's down to 222 pounds now. He's really toned up. He's trimmed his body fat down to just 8% body fat, which is just incredible. Dude looks yoked up.
We just need a shirtless pic out of him to get that like DK Metcalf vibe or something. You know what I mean? Like you see a ripped picture of him, everybody's gonna love him more than they do already. I'm sure of that.
Oh, he's got it. He posted a before and after picture.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but to me, what I like about that is as he's entering his draft year, he's entering it in the best shape possible, and what looks like a guy trying to take his game to the next level. So, to me, it's no secret that Jed Fish sees Jonah Coleman as the engine of Washington's offense leading into 2025 because Fish has been hyping Coleman up since their Arizona days. I saw a quote. He called him one of the best running backs in college football, and he's backing it up with these real numbers, right? The nation leading efficiency. I looked today at PFF. He has elite grades there.
I was totally going to bring him up. I think they had him as a top 3 running back in the nation last year on Pro Football Focus.
PFF really loves him and Isaac Brown. Those are 2 guys that they're really high on, and I'm agreeing with them so far based on what I've seen from the tape.
Yeah, I don't think you brought it up, but he had 76 missed tackles forced last year, Jonah Coleman, which is a great stat. We love that stat. It usually carries over well to translate if you can be a productive running back at the NFL level.
Yeah, there's a guy we're going to talk about later, spoiler alert, that is really known for hurdling defenders. Jonah Coleman did that too. Jonah Coleman's a lot heavier than that back as well. So I love how he runs, right? Compact. He's 5'9" again at that weight, sturdy. He's always delivering the blow, right? He's the hunter, not the hunted at all times. He puts his pads down. He absorbs contact. He rarely goes down in the first hit. And in zone looks like I think he is going to thrive in zone schemes in the NFL at the next level. And thankfully, that's the most used concept right now in all NFL offenses. So I just love him. His ball security is elite. Nearly 400 career touches without a single fumble.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's
I
incredible.
think he had one fumble last year, actually.
He
Correct
didn't
me if
lose
I'm
it.
wrong. I'm pretty sure. Okay, no fumbles lost. That's great. Yeah, but
No
yeah,
fumbles
one
lost.
fumble in his career. That's awesome. He does well as a receiver as well, so he's pretty well rounded. Giving me kind of MJD vibes a little bit when I watch him. Maybe that's mostly just the stature, but very excited to see him this year. And I think he's another guy who is floating under the radar a little bit right now. So we got to highlight him and make sure that Jonah Coleman gets some love.
Yeah, absolutely. And one last thing that I want to touch on with him is, to me, his best trait is the mental toughness, because I cannot express enough how shaky that offensive line was. And he never wavered. He kept pounding, he kept absorbing the hits, he kept turning his feet. He just got that grinder DNA that you want in a volume back. And actually, if you go to my Twitter, at Empire Elite FF, I actually put out a pretty cool little video, a cut up of his all 22. And the way I described him, every time I look at him, I just describe him as a grinder with juice, because he runs behind his pads well, with power and authority, but he's got the shiftiness and elusiveness that you would not expect from a big guy like that. So I think his talent is just tremendous. Another guy that I expect to be a big time riser in the NFL. And shout out to our guy, Chev. He just got on with the guys at Player Profiler and did it way too early 2026 mock. They were taking Jonah Coleman in the first round. So, I mean, I feel like he's a name that's starting to get out there, and more people are they're getting put on to Jonah Coleman. And
absolutely, that was a nice little video.
It's
a good one to watch if you guys are looking for more content after this.
Definitely.
Yeah, moving on. I have Caden Durham here, and speaking of your wonderful Twitter cut-ups, I like all the highlights you've been doing lately, and I've even seen them as I search some of these guys' names on Twitter popping up. Caden Durham is a guy for me in the blue tier, but a guy that I know you're a little bit higher on. I am excited to watch him, however. Extremely smooth runner. You know, he accelerates. It looks like he's almost effortlessly accelerating when he's running. You watch him and it's like there's not even any moving parts. He's just kind of like floating all over the field, moving really fast. Had some nice explosive plays last season, I think both as a receiver and as a rusher. As I was watching him, my brain just kept going muscle hamster. I was thinking of Doug Martin a little bit there. Just a lot of shades of Doug Martin.
Ooh, Doug Martin, I like that.
Yeah, and him, I think he's got a great opportunity. I know they also have Harlem Berry coming to LSU too, so there could be a nice little future there, 1-2 punch out of the running back position at LSU. But a lot of people are saying this is the best LSU back we've seen in years, maybe since Fournette. So speak on him a little bit. I know that you have him higher, but we want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, man, he's another guy he's got the build that I look for. 5'9", compact at 205 pounds. I love that, man. I describe him as a bowling ball with a rocket strapped to it. Literally, awesome. That's what I used to describe him. 5'9", he's compact, thick base, like I said. That's going to give you natural leverage and balance, and it helps him disappear behind that offensive line before exploding into the second level. Defenders lose track of him consistently behind those big SEC linemen. By the time they find him, it's too late. He's gone. Interesting stat that I found about him, and I think you're going to enjoy this. He was one of only 2 players in the FBS to have a rush for 80-plus yards and a reception of 70-plus yards in 2024. It was Caden Durham, and R.J. Harvey was the other one. So he did this in his first. He accomplished this in his first start in week 5, and he actually scored on consecutive plays. Right? If you go back and watch that game, he caught a screen pass and he raced for 71 yards for the touchdown. Actually, I think it was the first play of the game. On the first play of the next possession, he broke through the middle of the line. He scampered for like 86 yards to the 1 yard line. He didn't get a touchdown on that one, but 86 yards almost to the hole. Back-to-back plays for him. It was just incredible. And a thing that we have to touch on is he played through an injury for the majority of his SEC play, but he still rushed for 800 yards and 6 touchdowns. And I know you like to listen to the interviews of these players. I also like to listen to what the head coaches are saying about them. And Brian Kelly, just all throughout this offseason, has been raving about him because, of course, the questions pop up. You just recruited Harlem Berry, who was the number 1 running back of this recruiting class by a lot of people. What's the plan going forward? And this is a direct quote from Brian Kelly. He said, Cade Durham, he's dynamic. He's got breakaway speed, but he's also physical, built in that fire hydrant way where he's tough to get down on the ground. He burst on the scene for us, big time runs and catches, and then he was injured severely. So he talked a little bit about that injury. I think he had something going on with his toe. Yeah, dislocated big toe. He had a steel plate in his shoe, and he was trying to play through that. So I mean, tremendous production for having to battle through that, I think.
Yeah, and he was a track athlete in high school. He also won a state championship, and he was the offensive MVP of that game at Texas too. So it's not like some small school where there's not a lot of competition. So he's a guy who obviously was highly recruited and ended up at LSU for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. He ended there for a reason. He has, of all these backs here, I think he has the best blend of physicality and that legit track speed that you touched on. Like, he's fast, period. That 10.3 meter time is real. He has that second gear to finish runs. He's got the frame to break the arm tackles, those thick thighs, man. I just love it. I think he runs angry. There's that real edge to his game. He finishes the runs, and he's not shy about lowering his shoulders. I cannot get, like, when I see guys that can that speed to power running, I get juiced up, man. Like, I get so excited to see a guy that has that combination of speed and can run with physicality. Because in football, as at the running back, if you want it more than them, if you want to play some ball and get physical, you can, and you really set the tone. And that's going to be, it's just great for your teammates. But I could talk about him all day long too.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, he just looks so effortless when he runs. It's almost like a Madden glitch or something. Like, it doesn't seem like anything's moving, but the ball's advancing. Like, it's crazy just to watch him. I love watching his highlights.
Yeah, and what LSU needs to do this year is run the ball. LSU ran the ball the least amount of any SEC team last year. And in contrast, they passed the ball the fourth most in the entire country. So that's another thing Brian Kelly's talked about, is we got to run the ball more. And I think that's indicative by the recruits that they brought in. They have JT Lindsay as well. They still have Caleb Jackson. So they have a lot of bodies in there, but Caden Durham, to me, bottom line, he's stocky.
Without a doubt. And they want Nussmeier to be a top pick in the NFL draft too, right? So they got to start doing a little bit of both to take everything off of his shoulders.
Yeah, got to work on his efficiency a little bit, but let's move on. I could talk about him all day. He's one of my draft crushes for sure.
Yeah. The last one here we have on our blue tier is you have Makhi Hughes, who is a guy who I am higher on than you. I love Makhi Hughes. He's 5'11", he's 210. He's very shifty, man. He's a shifty guy. When you watch him, he just cuts really quickly. He's kind of moving his hips a little bit, escaping tackles. He had 129 missed tackles forced, which we just touched on a little bit ago in the last 2 seasons. 129 is a pretty good stat.
Yeah.
2,000 yards after contact. I just love what I see out of this guy. He reads the field well. He's got that edge to him. Like I said, he's shifty. He's kind of a player with a chip on his shoulder. He runs really hard. Of course, he was playing at Tulane, but we're looking forward to seeing what he can do at Oregon.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that's built for the Big Ten. Just the way he runs behind that offensive line, I think he's going to smash in. Another guy, again, pinch yourself if you've heard me say this, he's going to rise in his draft class in 2026. Him, just like Jonah Coleman, Darius Taylor, all guys that I put on my blue belt, I expect to rise, and we're really going to talk about them leading up to the 2026 draft if they have the type of seasons that we're expecting them. And I just think Makhi Hughes, he played at Tulane, but he's ultra productive. His analytical profile, as you alluded to with the missed tackles forced, it's excellent. So he's the kind of back that I think NFL coordinators are going to salivate over. He's the thick, violent runner, glides through gaps, breaks tackles, secures the rock. He adds enough pass game chops to just project as a total 3-down asset. I think the real test, as we all know, and why I have him lower than I really wanted to, is just maintaining that production in the Big Ten, right? But the talent and the toolbox,
yeah, that's for sure,
are already clear. Yeah, and with these guys it's hard to project going forward. You and I talked about this pre-show, just these G5 to P5, or I guess P4 now. When you go from the group of 5 to the Power 4 conference, the historical hit rates on these guys just aren't well. And so I do practice caution with these guys, but I think like we talked about before too, this is a new era with NIL and these running backs staying longer, transferring up. And I think we're going to get new data sets, and we have to adjust to the new landscape. I think his skill set just mixes so well with what Will Stein is going to want to do at Oregon. And he profiles like a Bucky Irving, if not a little better athletically, I think, than him. So super, super stoked about him.
I'm not the
as
biggest
well.
Bucky fan, so I don't want to put that juju out in the world, but I know a lot of other guys like Bucky. But I mean, this guy's he's a yak machine too. I have written down he had almost 2,000 yards after contact at Tulane
That's
over 2
crazy.
seasons. I mean, that's a stat that's going to pop your eyes open a little bit. So as long as he can maintain this level of play at Oregon, it's wheels up. And I'm advocating to get on a little bit earlier for him because I think he's going to have a very successful season at Oregon this year, and he's going to rise up the boards for sure. Get in while you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And what a stat. 2,000 yards after contact. That's incredible.
Yeah, I think it was like 1970 or something like that.
Round up, baby. We're 2000.
Yeah, we're rounding up. And we're moving up to the purple tier. And a couple guys that we have just talked about, as we alluded to, Caden Durham and Makhi Hughes. I have Makhi on my purple tier. You have Caden on your purple tier. And obviously wrote about him on your Twitter page, your X the Everything app page. So we don't need to dive into that too much because we just talked about them. But Nate Frazier is the guy that we do share here on the purple tier. A guy who I think a lot of people should be excited for. Nate Frazier is a guy who Nick Saban said was his number one running back coming out of high school. So we love that. And he had another track athlete. He had, I think, 10.5 speed in the 100 meter, which is pretty fast.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, pretty fast, man. He was named to 247's freaks list. So, I mean, that just tells you everything you need to know about him as an athlete. And again, he's another guy that when you watch on tape, man, the first thing that's going to jump off to you is speed. He's explosive. And when I say explosive, I mean like blink and he's gone. Like you give him a crease and he's turning it into a big chunk play before the defenders even realize what happened. But what makes him special isn't just the straight line speed, Chris. It's how he moves. Like Isaac Brown, who I touched on earlier, Frazier just has that gliding style where he makes cuts at full speed without losing momentum. He doesn't chop steps or stutter. He just flows. It's rare and it's art when I watch him run. That's the word I use to describe it. It's just art. It's beautiful. I love to watch it. Glance through lateral cuts at full tilt, burst off his plant foot consistently, carries that top end speed through the hole, shifty hips, all of the scouting superlatives that you can think of. I love him. I'm over the moon for him. And again, he's another guy that he doesn't run soft. A lot of times when you get these track athletes, that doesn't always translate to physicality on the football field. But there's some track guys in here who run with the speed, of course, but power and physicality as well. He runs with real intent, decisive, hits the hole with purpose, and he's always running low to the ground, which helps him stay balanced even when he takes contact. And it's not, I don't know how other people feel about this, but I love it that when I saw Nate Frazier score his first touchdown, he paid homage to the great UGA running backs that came before him. He did the Nick Chubb celebration. He did Sonny Michel's, the hands.
That was so cool to watch.
I love that, man. Like that just tells me that's a guy.
He knows where he's playing. He knows who came
at.
before him. Yeah, he's a fun player to watch. And I know that some of the Georgia fans down there have compared him to DeAndre Swift. And I see a lot of that in his game. Maybe not quite as much receiving ability, but he's no slouch as a receiver.
No, and I can't fault anybody for that comp. I mean, you see him running in that dog red, making the cuts. He looks a lot like DeAndre Swift. I think he's still more physical runner than DeAndre Swift. Like he'll lower that shoulder and initiate contact, like I said. But a game example that I have, do you remember that like 8 overtime thriller, Georgia versus Georgia Tech?
Yeah, you love those in-state rivalry games. Absolutely.
8 overtime. The game was incredible, but Nate Frazier was the one who got to call ball game on that. He's the one that scored the game-winning 2-point conversion to win the game. So I think he's got all the intangibles that you look for. I think it's exciting how natural he looks for a young back. The combination of vision and just the feel for space, it's ahead of schedule as a freshman running back in the SEC. He doesn't waste any movement. And you could tell by midseason that Georgia really trusted him in those tough spots. He showed flashes as a pass catcher, like I said, and physically, I think he's still filling out. But that's part of what makes him exciting, right? You see the frame, you see the tools, and it's easy to imagine what he could become. And that's why he's so high, why guys like him and Caden Durham are so high up on my list. I guess production-wise, I think people in the blue tier, on the blue tier belts are technically more productive than him, but I don't see them having the same upside that these guys have. So I did give them a little bump. Yeah, I what else can I say about him? He's electric, dude. Like,
Oh yeah, he's
him
great.
and Caden Durham are just incredible in space.
We love Georgia running backs. Yeah, he's going to be fun. There's a reason he's on both of our purple tier, without a doubt.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he had. I was just pulling up 22 receptions last year. Oh no, that's wrong. I'm looking at the wrong guy. Sorry about that. But yeah, he's a good receiver out of the backfield. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't have his total stats, but I mean, just seeing him on tape, I mean, he presents a good target to the quarterback. He turns upfield well, no wasted movement. Dude can do it all, and the sky's truly the limit with him.
Absolutely. And we talked about Makhi and Caden, but a guy who I'm really high on, who I don't think made your tier list at all, is Bryson Washington. The more I watched of him, the more I liked him, which is obviously why I put him so high up here. He had a fantastic year last year. I'm very bullish on him. 175 carries for 1,028 yards and 12 touchdowns. Here's the guy I was looking at. 22 receptions for 217 yards and another touchdown. That's going to average out to 5.9 yards per carry. He was the first freshman running back in Baylor history to surpass 1,000 rushing yards, which is pretty cool. But what I like about him is he's a slippery guy. You know, whenever you watch him coming out, getting the rock, he's kind of waiting for his turn, following his offensive lineman and making nice little moves to make, quick cuts and figure out the exact hole that he needs to hit and then making it to the second level, which is really nice. According to his RB's coach, he has added 10 pounds of muscle this year, and I've had him clocked between 20 and 21 miles per hour. He's a guy who is exciting to watch, and another one who I feel like is flying under a lot of people's radars. And I think the earlier you can get in on him, the better. Honestly, I wish I had scouted him a little bit sooner, because some of the earlier Devi startups I was doing, earlier in the offseason, I think I would have taken him a lot higher than I did. But yeah, he's just a tough guy to bring down, man. He's a slippery player.
Yeah, he's absolutely underrated. He's a guy that flew under my radar. He was not on my radar at all. And it's really astounding because when you look at the counting stats, he was just as productive as a guy like Isaac Brown, right? Like, so he's a guy that is now on my radar. I'm going to go back and look at him. You've talked about him. Chev has talked about him. Some other people that I really trust and value their insights and opinions are very high on him. I don't know if I'd have him at the purple belt, but then again, I haven't really scouted him to that level. So we'll see. I am excited to dig into that film. Like, everything that you guys have said just sounds like my type of running back. So I'm excited for that. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, his high school stuff was great too. He ran for over 2,000 yards and 30 touchdowns as a senior in high school, which pretty good, I'd say. So he's a guy who I'm looking forward to, and a guy who I definitely wanted to highlight after diving into all of these players that I was trying to jam into my tier here. But the more I watch of him, there's a reason that I have him so high up. I think he's just one more season. He's going to be eligible this year too. So one good season away, and he's going to be flying up people's boards and taken pretty early in the NFL drafts, especially for running back. I think he can prove that he's going to be one of the top guys taken in 2026. Yeah,
absolutely. And to you, the listener, Chris is not lying when he says, like, we struggled to just put 10 on here. The more it seemed like the more we dug into these guys, the more we wanted to include it. So there's so many that we wanted to include on here, but I will let you know that we will eventually put out an episode for some of these guys that didn't quite make these cuts, and we are going to talk about them in depth too, because it is just June, right? We got a lot of topics to cover.
Plenty of time before college football kicks off, so we want to highlight as many guys as we can before we start getting into actual games. So without further ado, we covered our 4 tiers, and we have the same. I didn't look at your rankings before I put my rankings in. We have the same black belt tier, which is the 2 names that everybody is probably wondering where they're at: Jeremiyah Love and Nicholas Singleton.
Yes.
Nick Singleton, of course, is one of my guys because I'm a Penn Stater, and you're probably going to hear that a million times on the Devi Dojo. I love all the Penn State guys. He's a guy who I've been advocating for a while. It's a little disappointing as a NFL dynasty player that he hasn't come out yet. Him and Katron both went back this year. But as a Penn State fan, I can't wait to watch them. They both ran for over 1,000 yards last year, and they're going to be another 1-2 punch to hopefully win a national title here in the next 2025 season. But what I've always liked about him, he started out as a Gatorade National Player of the Year in high school. he's got the size and the speed to be a very talented running back at the NFL level. 4.3 speed, 6 foot, about 227 last time I checked. Most recently, we've been talking a little bit about this, I think, in our Discord, but he broke the squat record set by Saquon, who, we know Saquon's a very strong player. So if you're talking about another running back coming in just a few years later and breaking that record, which is one that Saquon was very proud of, something to be excited about. He already set the freshman touchdown record at Penn State as well. I like that he has a nice receiving ability. They notably have not had any good wide receivers for years. So they've been using him, out of the slot, splitting him out wide. In the red zone, they've been using him sometimes just to try to get another eligible receiver down there who can actually catch a pass. So I feel like he's got the all-around ability to be a productive fantasy player at the NFL level. He's a good pass blocker too. I know that's been a lot of conversation topics here in the offseason talking about Trevion Henderson. So he just does it all. He's a guy that the coaches at the NFL are going to like. And what I like about him is he specifically said, hey, I want to come back. I want to win a national title. And I have some things that I want to work on. I feel like I'm not ready to be at the NFL yet. So I'm going back to school. I'm going to do another year. I'm going to work on all of those things to refine my game. And I'm going to get drafted in the first round. And I'm going to become one of the best running backs in the NFL. So I'm looking forward to seeing one more year out of him playing for my boys at Penn State and, being here on our black belt tiers so we can talk about him relentlessly for the next few months.
Yeah. He was one that I fully expected to enter the NFL draft last season. And I think if he had entered that draft, I would have put him with Quinshon Judkins and Trevion Henderson. He would have been in that same tier for me. And you know how high I was on those guys. So over the moon for him, like I talked to you about before the show, he's been an even bigger riser for me now. I think if I had to redo these rankings, I probably would flip-flop it a little bit. I mean, same tier, but I think I'm starting to lean Singleton RB1 as of now because of a lot of the things that you talked about. I like the development that he's made. He did enter college as a Devi darling, and he rushed for those 1,000 yards as a freshman, the 12 touchdowns, we know. And then he had the down season, right? Only rushed for 752 yards and 8 touchdowns. But that second season, you did see the development in his receiving skills. He had the 26 catches, 308 yards, and he still put up a total of 10 touchdowns. He's got the legit track speed, like you said. He made Bruce Feldman's freaks list 2 years in a row, which I just love. I love reading that thing.
If you can call somebody a freak, I'm in. I want freaks on my team.
It's the biggest compliment you could give in more ways than one. But Kaytron Allen is another good complimentary back that I think NFL teams are going to love. I know he might not have the best analytical profile, but Kaytron Allen is one. He's just a dog to me. But both of them coming back, like you said, they're trying to win a state championship. I don't know how much Quentin Martin Jr., the other high-profile running back that's kind of waiting in the wings there, I don't know how he felt about them returning.
Oh, yeah, he was one of the ones I cut. He was originally on my white belt tier, and we'll have to talk about him in a future episode for sure. He's got a lot of opportunity, but he's going to have to wait. They're going to mix him in this year, of course, but he's going to have to wait because those two are both dogs. I think they're both going to get drafted. Kaytron, absolutely. I mean, this is a great thunder and lightning backfield. Kaytron just loves contact, man. He just wants to go get guys. He's not trying to juke anybody out. He just wants to plow through you. And that's what makes these two such a fun pairing to watch, which is why they both had 1,000 yards last year.
Yes, sir. And I think the NFL is going to love Singleton specifically. I think they're going to love both, but Singleton to me, he's the prototypical one cut power or speed back, right? But he's still violent through the line. He finishes runs well, explodes in space. I don't think he's the most laterally elusive, but he brings that rare home run speed for his size. Receiving game has grown, like I touched on. I think he's legit 3-down back at the next level. I really do. And I know he's a decent pass blocker now. I'm not quite ready to put him up there with Trevion, but I think that's one of the things he's going to develop. And as we know, maybe that's not the most fantasy relevant thing to work on, but if you're able to pass protect, you're going to get more snaps and you're going to stay on the field.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. But let's we're running out of time here. Let's go ahead and finish it up with Jeremiyah Love.
Yeah, he's easily everybody's RB1 right now, which is why he is well-deserved, of course, to be on our black belt tier. But he's a guy who's going to be very difficult to acquire, I think. And mid-season last year, you told me, hey, look out for this guy. So I started watching more and more of him around October last year. And sure enough, he kept getting better and better as the year went on.
Yeah, he's a guy that didn't get much run, right? As a freshman, he had some cleanup, mop up duties behind Audric Estime, but he was still efficient with his touches. I believe he ended the year with 5.4 yards per carry, but it was truly that sophomore breakout that he had. He actually added 20 pounds of muscle from his time as a freshman to the start of his sophomore year. So he was a guy that was like, oh, I believe they said 180 something. Now he's 206, but good size, 6 foot. He did all that en route to 160 plus carry season for over 1,100 yards and 17 touchdowns for a smoking hot 6.9 yards per carry. So very efficient with his touches. And, Riley Leonard really took a lot of those touches from him. I think it helped keep him fresh a little bit. And he's a guy that down towards the end of the season, really in the college football playoffs, you saw him start to wear down a little bit. So that is going to be a question that we have this year is, can he handle a full workload? He's another guy that I think needs to work on how he carries the ball. He's another one of those tall guys that kind of runs upright. He will lower his shoulders at times, but just the way he runs scares me for a guy with that size. But I mean, he's a superstar, man. Another guy with legit speed. I mean, we're all going to think back to Indiana, right, in the college football playoffs, 98 yards to the house to really set the tone for that game.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It was the play of the college football playoffs, I think, in my mind. Well, actually, I take that back. He had another play against your Penn State.
Don't bring it up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but he had Abdul Carter and like 3 other defenders there in the goal line in a 2-yard rush, and he ran with physicality and power, would not go down, did a little mini hurdle over somebody at the line of scrimmage. With Abdul Carter there, like I said, like that just showed me everything that I need to know about him as a competitor. Unfortunately, after that, his rush attempts really dwindled down, and I think he just wasn't the same with the injuries. But I mean, he's a guy that's getting legit first round buzz, and he might have a third straight season. We might have a third straight season with at least one running back taken in the first round, possibly multiple. And the best chances of that are Jeremiyah Love and Nick Singleton right now.
Yeah, Love is great, man. He does it all. I've seen him compared to Alvin Kamara. Darren McFadden is the one that I like the most because I think Darren had that edge to his game where, Kamara for me is more of a receiver. He's, famously never got a 1,000-yard rushing season, I believe. But McFadden, I feel like had that edge to him where he would, run into guys, and he's a little bit more physical. And that's who I see when I am watching Jeremiyah Love. Just Darren McFadden's fantastic all-around player. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that comp. Even the running style, even the kind of upright running style and the size, I think that's a good comp. I haven't heard that one. I love that. Alvin Kamara, yeah, not too much. I don't think Love is that level of pass catcher. I think he's good, but that's an area he can really develop and refine his game. He can do it, of course. I wouldn't say that he's the best at that.
Yeah, without a doubt, he's got enough that NFL scouts are going to love him and potentially make him a first-round draft pick.
Yep. Well, we made it again, a little over our time, but I think we're okay. I had fun. How about you, Chris?
I always have fun, man. This is the best. I love the Devi Dojo, and I love all of our listeners.
I mean, anytime you get to talk college ball, like what's better than that, right? But that wraps up today's journey, everybody, through the flickering fame of the running back position. Like any fire, these running backs can light up your roster, or they can fade before you even realize it. That's why staying sharp, adjusting your ranks, knowing when to act is the way of the Devi Dojo. So if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below because, I'm gonna be interacting with you. Chris is going to be interacting with you. Tell us which running back you believe is burning brightest right now and who you think might be turning to embers. And if you want even more Devi wisdom, make sure to join our free Discord under a different name, Empire of the Elite. The link will be in the description. In that Discord, man, we're always breaking down these players. We're debating tiers. We're sharpening each other's skills. So until next time, stay disciplined, stay curious, and keep building your Devi Dojo. We will see you later.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to fantasysportsadvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to fantasysportsadvice.com today.